Hello friends, welcome to my channel. It's the beginning of the month, so it's time to have a look at Spellbinder's Club Kits for the month of August. And this card features three of them. We have the 3D embossing folder in the background, coupled with the sentiment from the small die of the month, and then the gorgeous floral is the large die of the month. I started off by die cutting all of the elements to create the floral design. I chose saturated color, pink, yellow, coral, and there's even a bit of deep purple in there. These colors are pretty vibrant, so as a foil, I've chosen gray cardstock. There are lots of shades of gray out there. I really love Lunar Gray. This is by Spellbinders, and it has sort of a slightly green undertone to it. I love it. When I have lots of bits and pieces, the first thing that I like to do is start assembling them so that they're more manageable. This die set, the Colourful Expression Blooms, is really gorgeous. I love that there's a good combination of very large florals along with supporting pieces that are smaller in size that can be tucked in here and there. This makes it very easy to create a design. I like to start with my larger pieces and then fill in with all the smaller ones. Small die of the month, Colourful Expressions Sentiments is all about, sentiments. There are lots of different words which are accompanied by shadow dies which can be configured into many different expressions. For this card, I've chosen Wonderful and Day. They were both die cut from pink cardstock, the same pink that was used on the large bloom, and then the shadow die cut is from black cardstock. And once I have the script adhered to the shadows, then I'm going to go ahead and lay out my design on a panel of Lunar Gray cardstock. The panel is A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And as you can see, I started off with those two large blooms and the sentiment to make sure that they were going to fit in together before I start adding in some of the smaller florals and leaves. And I have two small flowers that I'm not going to place quite yet. I'm going to set them aside until I have this panel pulled together. When you have a layered design and you're not completely confident that you're going to get it back the way you have put it together initially, you can either take a photo of it or you can use a product called Press and Seal. I like working with this product. I just find it in my local grocery store. The Lunar Gray panel is going to be embossed with the 3D embossing folder of the month, Floral Expressions. And as you can see, I'm just laying out my design, which is easy to do, to see how it's going to look. Run it through my die cutter and just look at this design. It looks so beautiful on that gray cardstock. Sometimes I get so engrossed with what I'm doing, I start building my card front when it is easiest to first take your panel and adhere it to the card base. So surprisingly, I actually remembered to do it this time. The card base is A2 size and so is the embossed panel, so it is an edge-to-edge design. The liquid adhesive was applied in thin streams, but I did make sure that I had good coverage right across the panel. I'm going to pop it under some weight so that the embossed panel is going to lie completely flat on the card base. While I'm waiting for it to dry, I'm going to prepare my floral spray. It is going to be adhered to the card front with a combination of liquid adhesive and foam squares. The foam was adhered to the three florals, even the one that was tucked behind that spray of leaves. For the large bloom, I'm only placing the foam squares on the petals. I'm purposely missing out the center of the flower. The backing is still on the foam square, so I can lay it out on my card front with the sentiment just to make sure everything is going to fit properly. My design is quite dark, and so when I start removing the backing from the foam squares, you can see that I am using black ones. And as I'm working again, I'm also going to be placing some liquid adhesive here and there just to tack some of those loose stems in place. I'm also going to pop up the small coral florals on that one branch. They're small, so I'm cutting the small foam black squares in half. It is easiest to cut them with the foam squares still on the backing paper. This will prevent the squares from sticking to the blades of your scissors. Liquid adhesive is placed in the center of the large flower, a fairly good amount. I want that to adhere flat to the embossed panel and then sweep upwards to the foam squares on the petals. And I'll add in just a little bit of adhesive on the stems and some of the lower leaves and buds on those two sprays at the top. The press and seal is flipped over and I literally just let it hover over top of the panel before I press it into place. I make sure that I'm applying a little bit of pressure everywhere on all of the elements of the spray and then very carefully peel the press and seal off of the panel. This is a great and economical product to work with, especially for floral sprays and scene building. And I'm just going to pop up that one leaf with a foam square, and then I'm going to adhere the sentiment. What I didn't show you is that I used the shadow die to also cut black sheet foam, and so this sentiment is stacked. And there you can see it. It is much more consistent with all of the dimension of the floral spray. Before I pop on the word day, I'm first going to adhere one of those two flowers that I had set aside. Then the rest of the sentiment is adhered over top of the flower. So now the sentiment does not stand apart from the floral design, it is much more unified. And the floral spray is wrapped up with that second flower. The two things that I try to incorporate in most of my cards is dimension and some kind of sparkle. So now I'm going to add in lots of coral confetti. And here I go again with the Nuvo Crystal Drops Morning Dew. I just love how this clear drying medium transforms a simple sequin into something that looks really beautiful. And I'm just going to add a pin drop in the center of those tiny florals. And that wraps up this card featuring Spellbinder's large die of the month, small die of the month, and even the 3D embossing folder of the month. These are all amazing products. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I appreciate your visit.